My name's Stuart Clarke. I'm the Artistic Director of Cordial Productions, and my previous credits include Journey's End, Macbeth, The Tree Up at the Gatehouse in Highgate, The Elephant Man, and Charles Dickens' The Signalman. We were founded in 2001, and my next production, forthcoming production, is John Hopkins' Find Your Way Home, which I'm here to talk about today. Well, John Hopkins, the writer, was a great writer in the 60s. He was the original writer for the first 13 episodes of Z-Cars. He made his name with Talking to a Stranger, which starred a young Judi Dench and Michael Bryant. He went on to write Thunderball, which was a James Bond classic, and several other screenplays. He's probably best known for his play This Story of Yours, which I produced in 2003 at the New End Theatre in Hampstead, which was a fantastic, hard-hitting play, which was later made into a film starring Sean Connery. And the film was called The Offence, directed by Sidney Lumet. He also wrote this play 2 or 3 years after, and first previewed in 1974-75 on Broadway, and received Tony nominations in several categories, I believe. And I'm hoping to produce this play because it's never been produced in this country, and it's a pretty brutal examination of a gay relationship, a bisexual relationship, and involves 4 characters, all who were, if you like, victims of the times. It was said in the mid-70s when to be gay was extremely difficult, especially if you were a male. Not to say that the woman, obviously, being married to a bisexual man, wouldn't have had enormous difficulty come to terms with that situation as well. I think his power as a writer is that it still is relevant to today, because relationships involving anybody's sexuality, we still haven't really moved on as much as we think we have. And I think Find Your Way Home is relevant today. Simply because if you were to take this play back to the 1960s and maybe perhaps cast somebody of a different colour, it would have been brutal then. But I think even today, if we're to be brutally honest, we haven't really moved on as much as we think we have. I don't think when I say that, I don't think we've explored the exploitation within a gay relationship. I think we steer clear of talking about how a gay man can be exploited both by a gay man and possibly a heterosexual man. We deal mainly with, quite rightly, with a male exploiting a female, which is certainly relevant. But this play hones in at an area that I don't think any other playwright has ever attempted to tackle, and I think that's why it's still relevant. You could say that it's dated. You could say that no, this was said in the 70s, we have moved on, but I actually think we haven't. And I think that it's the way that Hopkins goes places that no other writer goes within people's relationships, and talks about things that no other writer, in my opinion, both in This Story of Yours and Find Your Way Home, has ever really broached. And I think it is relevant, although we will be approaching it in a slightly different way. I won't say what, we're going to keep that a secret. Myself and Omar Okai, who's resident director at the Lion and Unicorn in Kentish Town, along with Simon Collier, and me and Omar have talked about it. And yes, you could say its impact has lessened slightly if we were to set it in the mid-70s, perhaps, but we've got an idea that we'll set it at a time when you can really appreciate the difficulties that all of the 4 characters would have had, and the effect that would have had on an audience then. And even today, the language is pretty brutal. It's not for the faint-hearted, if you like, but it's pretty gripping, brilliant theatre, as far as I'm concerned. And I think the audience will come away thinking, wow, and they'll be talking about it for days to come. And yeah, it's just got to come and see it, really. It is a celebration that we have come a long way. When we go back to the 60s, perhaps, our grandfathers who perhaps were gay or bisexual, and then we realise now how far we've come when we witness in this powerful piece of theatre just what they would have to have endured, and the torment, and I suppose all having to live a lie and never being free. And I think Find Your Way Home doesn't apply to one character, it applies to them all. They're all trying to find their way for a peaceful existence, and our sexuality is part of what we are. And we're lucky, and you're right, it is a celebration that today we can say, well, we have come a long way, but perhaps we can still go further with a recognition and looking at the gay community. Perhaps there'll be some people say, well, yes, this deals with the gay approach to sex by some gay men, and tackles an area that's never really been tackled. What's it like to be gay? What's it like to be a gay man that's married? And I'm not so sure. If you look at the newspapers, it still sells papers. It's still, people are still castigated for their sexuality and for who they are sexually. And I think that's very sad. But as you quite rightly say, we've come a long, long way, and a lot of people will sit down, and this will be a trip down memory lane. And some people in the audience will remember what it was like, certainly in the 60s, to say, hey, you know, I was a gay man. I lived that lie. I lived that life. And it would be very emotional for them to see those things being played out in front of them. But as you quite rightly say, there'll be a section of the audience who are proud of the fact that, yeah, look at this. This is how far we have come, which is a great point that you've made, you know, and it's very, very true. We have come a long way. But I think it asks deeper questions throughout the piece, things that we haven't yet come to terms with, I think. And